While there have been many movies based on the life of Marie Antoinette, the last Queen of France prior to the French Revolution, it may be director Sofia Coppola's 2006 film starring Kirsten Dunst that is the most stylish. She became a symbol of the excesses of the monarchy and is often credited with the famous quote, "Let them eat cake," though there is no evidence she actually said it. Ultimately, Marie Antoinette was beheaded 9 months after her husband, Louis XVI, by order of the Revolutionary Tribunal when she was 37 years old in 1793. But first, let's explore her story and place in history. Born Maria Antonia Josefa Joanna in Vienna, Austria in 1755, she was the youngest daughter of Empress Maria Theresa and Emperor Francis I. She lived a relatively carefree childhood, very social with a very close family and many friends, liked playing music and dancing, and was generally educated as a typical 18th century aristocratic girl, focused primarily on religious and moral principles. With the conclusion of the 7 Years' War in 1763, the preservation of a fragile alliance between Austria and France became a priority for Empress Maria Theresa. Cementing alliances through matrimonial connections was a common practice among European royal families at the time, so it was not long until Marie Antoinette, only 12 at the time, and Louis-Auguste, the future King Louis XVI, were pledged to marry. Marriages often took place by proxy in those days, so Maria Antonia was married to Louis in 1768. Without having met him, her brother stood in. 3 years later, Louis XV dispatched a tutor to Austria to instruct his grandson's future wife. The tutor found Marie Antoinette more intelligent than has been generally supposed, but added that since she is rather lazy and extremely frivolous, she is hard to teach. Marie Antoinette was only 14 years at the time and delicately beautiful, with gray-blue eyes and blonde hair. In May 1770, she finally set out for France to be married, escorted by 57 carriages, 117 footmen, and 376 horses. Marie Antoinette and Louis-Auguste were married on May 16, 1770, with Louis wearing a suit of silver and Marie wearing a lilac dress dripping with diamonds and pearls. There were over 5,000 guests, and a crowd of 200,000 watched the concluding fireworks display. Since they were so young at the time, they were largely ignorant on relationships. So it proved to be a problem when the marriage went unconsummated for 7 years, when of the key reasons for royal marriages was to produce heirs. The situation not only personally distressed the members of the royal household, but became a political liability. Marie's mother eventually sent her brother Joseph to town to find out what the problem was. Joseph referred to the royals as two complete blunderers and didn't discover any good reason other than a lack of inclination or perhaps a lack of education. Joseph's straight talk during his visit seemed to produce results. The couple sent him a thank you letter and produced 4 children in relatively quick succession. Some wags wondered if the children were Louis', given Marie's almost understandable interest in other men at court, but no one was able to prove otherwise. While Louis pursued more mundane hobbies, Marie indulged her taste for luxury and became notorious for her pricey fashions, expensively sculpted hair, and as a party girl, where she planned and attended innumerable dances. Her 2 favorite things were said to be flowers and chocolate, and she tended to her own personal flower garden on her mini estate at Versailles, Petit Trianon. Unlike Marie, whose education was spotty, Louis was well educated and continued to be interested in learning once he became king, and extensive reading fostered enlightened aims. However, these aims were blocked by a hostile aristocracy desperate to preserve the social structure in France and irritated that their money was funding foreign wars, while a frustrated populace soon blamed the king and the nobility for inaction and revolutionary attitudes began to foment. Political pamphleteers of the day did much to deride Marie Antoinette for her profligate spending habits, nicknaming her Madame Deficit. They often portrayed her as an ignorant woman who treated her social inferiors with disregard at best and contempt at worst. Much of this character assassination was simply invented. Although Marie Antoinette was guilty of sins against decorum and exhibited a certain insensitivity to the value of money, she was a person who liked people, especially children, and she adopted a number of children during her reign. Tragedy struck the family when her daughter Sophie died less than a year after her birth, and then her son Louis-Joseph died in 1789 at age 7, just weeks before the storming of the Bastille that would ignite the French Revolution, leading to the eventual overthrow of the monarchy in August 1792. Marie Antoinette's ambiguous attitude at the outbreak of the French Revolution, she seemed uncertain whether to run away or seek reconciliation, accelerated her tragic demise. She was imprisoned in the Temple on August 10, 1792, then moved to the Conciergerie shortly after the execution of the king in 1793. Upon her death at the guillotine on October 16, 1793, rabid crowds dipped their handkerchiefs in the queen's blood and cheered when her disembodied head was raised up for view. For more suggested reading and movies on her life, check out the links in the video notes below.